A distorted signal, barely recognizable, crackled through the communications array of the horizon, a deep space exploration vessel on the outer rim of human-controlled territory. The crew, accustomed to mining operations and routine explorations, was stunned into silence as fragments of an ancient distress call emerged from the static. "This can't be real," murmured Jax Torres, the ship's tech specialist, his brow furrowed as he analyzed the data on his console. The transmission bore an encryption protocol that hadn't been used in over a millennium, a relic from humanity's early expansion into the stars. Captain Mira Dane stood at the helm, her sharp eyes fixed on the readings. "It's real enough," she said, her tone calm but charged with curiosity. "And it's coming from that storm-covered planet." She pointed at the holographic display, where an uncharted planet swirled with chaotic weather patterns. The world was marked as uninhabitable in their logs, yet here was a signal, a cry for help from the past. Jax leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Uncharted, hostile atmosphere, and now a 1,000-year-old signal? Sounds like the start of a bad idea. Dr. Elena Voss, the ship's historian, spoke up, her voice tinged with excitement. Or the start of a discovery that could redefine everything we know about our ancestors. Imagine what we could find down there, a piece of our lost history. Mira weighed their words carefully. The risks were clear, but so was the potential reward. "Prep the landing craft," she ordered. "We're going in." The descent was treacherous. Turbulent winds buffeted their small craft as it pierced the planet's dense atmosphere. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating a desolate wasteland below. Jagged rocks and remnants of ancient structures jutted out of the ground, their silhouettes ghostly against the storm-lit horizon. As they neared the signal source, an enormous shadow loomed into view, a massive vessel partially buried in the earth. Its hull, though scarred and worn, was unmistakably human in design, a testament to the engineering marvels of a bygone era. "That's a Dreadnought," Elena whispered, awe evident in her voice. "I've only read about these in archives. They were the pride of the old fleets, built for wars we can barely comprehend." The team landed a short distance from the colossal ship. Stepping onto the planet's surface, the storm's ferocity was immediately apparent. Gale-force winds whipped around them, and the air crackled with static electricity. Their exosuits' environmental shielding kept them safe, but the oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily nonetheless. As they approached the Dreadnought, its sheer scale became apparent. The ship's name, barely legible through centuries of erosion, was etched into its side, Aegis Eternal. "This thing's ancient," Jack said, his voice laced with a mix of awe and skepticism. "How is it still intact after all this time?" "Built to last," Mira replied, her tone reverent. This wasn't just a warship. It was a symbol of humanity's strength and ambition. The group found an opening in the hull, a breach likely caused by whatever cataclysm had stranded the ship here. As they stepped inside, their helmet lights illuminated a cavernous interior. Dust and debris coated every surface, and the air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional creak of metal. Elena's gaze darted around, taking in the faded insignias and the remnants of technology. "This place is a treasure trove. If we can recover its logs, we might learn what happened to it. And why it was left here." Jax was less enthusiastic. "Yeah, and what killed the crew?" he muttered under his breath, his hand resting on his sidearm. Their exploration took them deeper into the ship, past corridors filled with broken machinery and evidence of ancient battles. Burn marks scorched the walls, and skeletal remains lay scattered, their forms twisted in what seemed to be desperate final moments. Whatever hit this ship, it wasn't just time, Mira observed grimly. As they neared the ship's command center, the faint hum of dormant systems came to life. Jax had managed to reroute power to a control panel, causing dim lights to flicker on. The sight that greeted them was both haunting and fascinating. The bridge, once the nerve center of the Dreadnought, now lay in ruins. Cracked screens and shattered consoles bore silent witness to the chaos that had unfolded here. Elena's fingers danced over the controls, searching for anything that could provide answers. After a few tense moments, she gasped, "I found something." A partial log. The recording crackled to life, a hologram of a long-dead officer flickering into view. His face was lined with exhaustion, his voice strained. "To any who find this, the Aegis Eternal fell not to the enemy, but to betrayal. We were sabotaged, left to die on this forsaken world. The AI remains dormant, its mission incomplete. If humanity still exists, you must finish what we could not. Beware, they are still here." The hologram faded, leaving the team in stunned silence. "They are still here," Jax repeated, his voice tinged with unease. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could respond, a distant sound echoed through the ship, a metallic scraping, like something moving in the shadows. Mira raised her weapon, her voice steady but firm. "Stay alert. We're not alone." The team's lights cut through the darkness as they pressed on, their unease growing with each step. The signal that had drawn them here was no longer just a mystery. It was a warning, and whatever had doomed the Aegis Eternal might still be lurking in its shadows, waiting for its next prey. The interior of the Aegis Eternal felt like stepping into a forgotten cathedral of war. The scale of the corridors was overwhelming, designed for a time when humanity wielded power unimaginable by today's standards. The walls, adorned with faded insignias and rusted panels, whispered of forgotten battles and lost glory. Every step echoed faintly, a haunting reminder of how lifeless the ship had become. Jax worked quickly at a console, coaxing the dormant systems back to life. Sparks flew as he bypassed the ancient circuits. "This tech is primitive by our standards, but it's ridiculously over-engineered. They weren't messing around when they built this thing." "It had to be," Elena said, studying a faded mural etched into the wall nearby. It depicted humanity locked in battle with towering, insectoid creatures, their biomechanical forms grotesque and alien. The wars of this era weren't about territory or resources. They were about survival. If this ship was here during the peak of that conflict, it's no wonder it was built to last. Jax muttered something under his breath as the console lit up with a low hum. The ship groaned and faint lights flickered down the corridor ahead. "There," he said. "Minimal power restored. Should give us access to more systems." Mira led the team deeper into the ship, her weapon drawn. The faint glow of the restored lights revealed more of the Dreadnought's interior. Shattered terminals, scorch marks along the walls, and strange, organic growths creeping along the floor. Elena knelt to examine one of the growths, her scanner buzzing softly. This isn't natural," she said, her voice tinged with unease. "It's biomechanical, similar to the alien species depicted in that mural. Whatever attacked this ship might still be active." Jax frowned, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Great. Just what we need. Alien leftovers." The team pressed on, eventually reaching what appeared to be the operations center. The room was massive, with rows of consoles and a central command station. A large, shattered viewport provided a haunting view of the storm raging outside. Elena immediately began scanning the consoles, searching for logs or data. "I've got something," she said after a moment, her voice trembling with excitement. "The captain's logs. They're fragmented, but some of the entries are still intact." Mira nodded. "Play the most recent one." A hologram flickered to life, displaying a weary man in a once pristine uniform. His face was gaunt, his eyes haunted. "This is Captain Rylan of the Aegis Eternal. The ship has been compromised. Internal sabotage. Our AI core was deliberately disabled during combat. We've managed to hold off the enemy for now, but without the AI, we can't complete our mission. If anyone finds this, know that we didn't go down without a fight." The hologram faded, leaving the team in silence. Myra's jaw tightened. Sabotage. Someone wanted this ship to fail. "Who?" Jax asked. "And why?" This ship was humanity's best chance, wasn't it? Elena's eyes scanned the room, her mind racing. It might not have been just sabotage. If the AI core was deliberately disabled, it means someone didn't want it operational. And if that's true, the answer might be here, in the ship's systems. As they spoke, the ship shuddered. A low, guttural sound echoed through the corridor behind them, followed by the faint, rhythmic clanging of metal on metal. Mira raised her hand, signaling for silence. The team froze, their eyes scanning the dimly lit room. "Movement," Jax whispered. "Something's coming." From the shadows of the corridor, a shape emerged, a grotesque amalgamation of metal and organic matter, its form pulsating with unnatural energy. Its limbs were jagged and insectoid, its movements erratic but purposeful. It let out a piercing screech, the sound reverberating through the room. Mira fired first, her plasma rifle lighting up the dark corridor. The creature recoiled, its metallic carapace sparking where the shots hit. Jax and Elena followed suit, their weapons adding to the cacophony. The creature lunged forward, its claws scraping against the walls as it closed the distance. "Fall back," Mira shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The team retreated toward the operations center, firing as they moved. Jax managed to toss an energy grenade, the explosion sending the creature screeching into the darkness. As the dust settled, the team regrouped, their breaths heavy. "What the hell was that?" Jax demanded, his voice trembling. Elena's face was pale. "It's one of them, the species that fought humanity during the war. Or what's left of it. That wasn't just a creature. It was augmented, like the growths we saw earlier. It's been evolving." Myra's expression was grim. "If one of them is still active, there could be more. We need to reactivate the AI core and figure out what happened here before we're overrun." Jax hesitated. "You sure we can trust this AI? What if it was part of the sabotage?" "We don't have a choice," Mira said. "That AI is the only thing that can give us answers, and possibly the only thing that can get this ship operational again." The team moved quickly, guided by the fragmented map Elena had managed to recover from the consoles. The AI core was located in the ship's heart, a heavily fortified chamber designed to protect it from external threats. As they approached, the air grew colder, and the strange biomechanical growths became more prominent. The entrance to the core chamber was sealed, its massive doors marked with the insignia of the old fleet. Jax worked quickly, bypassing the ancient security protocols. The doors groaned as they slid open, revealing a massive, circular room. At its center was the AI core, a towering structure of crystalline and metallic components, pulsing faintly with residual energy. Elena approached the console, her hands trembling as she activated the core. The room hummed to life, and a cold, mechanical voice filled the air. "AI System Aegis Online. Identity verification required." Mira stepped forward. "We're not your crew, but we need your help. Humanity needs your help." The core pulsed, its voice laced with suspicion. "Unidentified individuals detected. Query: what is humanity's status? Is the enemy neutralized?" Mira exchanged a glance with Elena. "We're still here, but we don't know what enemy you're referring to. We need you to tell us what happened." The AI paused, its voice softening slightly. "This ship was tasked with stopping an extinction-level threat. Betrayal from within compromised the mission. The enemy adapted. If you have reactivated me, it means the threat remains." The team's unease grew. Mira clenched her fists. "Then help us stop it." The AI's glow intensified. "Agreed, but be warned. The enemy has evolved, and so must you. Prepare yourselves. The battle is far from over." The AI systems began to reawaken, filling the chamber with a mechanical hum that reverberated through the walls. Its crystalline core flickered with light as it processed the team's presence and the current state of the ship. Mira stepped closer, her expression a mix of determination and caution. "Can you identify the enemy's current threat level?" she asked, her voice firm. The AI's response was immediate, its tone analytical. "Threat level catastrophic. Remaining enemy forces have integrated with the ship's systems and organic remnants. They now exist as hybrid entities with both biological and mechanical capabilities. Their objective remains the eradication of all human life. Jax muttered under his breath. So those things we saw earlier weren't just leftovers. They're the enemy now. Elena's face was pale, but her voice was steady. How did they survive? The war was supposed to have ended centuries ago. Incorrect, the AI said. The war did not end. It merely shifted. The Aegis Eternal was sabotaged to prevent the completion of a weapon capable of neutralizing the enemy permanently. Without the weapon, the enemy adapted and endured. Their presence on this planet is evidence of their evolution. Myra's jaw tightened. What weapon? Can it still be used? The AI's lights pulsed rhythmically, as though contemplating the question. The weapon is partially operational. However, key components were deactivated during the sabotage. Full reactivation requires manual repair in the core subsystems located deeper within the ship. Be advised, enemy presence in those areas is significant. Jax let out a humorless laugh. Of course it is. Nothing's ever simple. Mira ignored him, her focus on the AI. What do we need to do? A holographic map of the ship appeared, highlighting multiple locations. The AI's voice was calm, almost clinical. You must retrieve and reinsert 3 power cores into the primary reactor. Each core is located in a different section of the ship. Be aware, the enemy will respond aggressively to your movements. They are aware of my reactivation and will prioritize your elimination. Elena studied the map, her expression grim. This ship is massive. We'll be exposed the moment we leave this room. We don't have a choice, Mira said. We either finish this mission or we die here. The team moved out, their weapons drawn and their senses heightened. The corridors were eerily quiet, the faint hum of the ship's reactivated systems the only sound. The first core was located in what appeared to be a maintenance bay. As they approached, the air grew colder, and the biomechanical growths became more aggressive, twisting along the walls and ceiling like veins. Jax crouched near a console, his hands moving quickly as he bypassed the locks. This should be easy. His words were cut off as a piercing screech echoed through the chamber. The enemies surged from the shadows, their grotesque forms illuminated by the team's weapon lights. They moved with unnatural speed, their metallic limbs clanging against the floor. Mira fired first, her plasma shots striking one of the creatures in its exposed core. It collapsed, but more emerged, their movements erratic and deadly. Hold them off! Mira shouted as Jax worked frantically. Elena and Jax fired in unison, their shots lighting up the dark corridor. The creatures were relentless, their shrieks filling the air as they lunged toward the team. Finally, Jax yanked the core free from its containment unit. Got it, he shouted, his voice strained. Move, Mira ordered, her team retreating back down the corridor. The creatures pursued, their screeches growing fainter as the team ducked into a secured area. They paused to catch their breath, their bodies tense with adrenaline. That was one, Jax said, his voice trembling. We've got 2 more to go. The next section was deeper within the ship, an area that had sustained significant damage. The walls were blackened from ancient fires, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready. The second core was located in what had once been the crew's quarters. The sight was grim. Rows of bunks now covered in alien growths. Skeletal remains entangled in the biomechanical webbing. Elena scanned the area, her face grim. These were the crew. They didn't stand a chance. Mira nodded, her expression hard. Focus. Get the core and get out. As Jax worked to retrieve the second core, the team was ambushed again. This time, the creatures attacked from all sides, their shrieks deafening in the confined space. Mira fired relentlessly, her shots precise and lethal. Jax managed to grab the core, just as one of the creatures lunged toward him. Elena's shot took it down before it could strike. "Keep moving," Mira shouted, leading the team back toward the main corridor. By the time they reached the location of the third core, they were exhausted but resolute. The final section was the most heavily infested, the walls pulsing with an unnatural glow. The enemy's presence was overwhelming, their numbers increasing with every encounter. The team fought their way through, their movements precise and coordinated. Jax retrieved the third core, his hands shaking as he secured it in his pack. The team retreated under heavy fire, the creatures relentless in their pursuit. When they finally reached the reactor chamber, they were battered but alive. The AI's voice greeted them as they entered. "Core reactivation sequence initiated. Stand by." Mira and her team defended the chamber as the AI worked to restore power. The enemies surged into the room, their screeches filling the air as they attacked with relentless fury. The team held their ground, their weapons blazing. Finally, the reactor roared to life, and the AI's voice echoed through the chamber. Power cores reactivated. Weapon systems online. Initiating final protocol. The enemy's movements became erratic, their forms convulsing as the ship's systems began to target them. One by one, they fell, their grotesque forms disintegrating under the onslaught of the ship's newly reactivated defenses. As the last of the creatures collapsed, the team stood in silence, their breaths heavy. Mira turned to the AI, her voice steady. "Is it over?" The AI's response was calm. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. However, the enemy's presence extends beyond this planet. If humanity is to survive, the weapon must be used on a larger scale. The choice is yours." Mira exchanged a glance with her team, their expressions resolute. They had come this far, and there was no turning back. Humanity's survival depended on what they did next. The ship hummed with renewed energy, its systems fully operational for the first time in centuries. The team stood in the AI's chamber, battered but alive, as the holographic interface displayed the weapon status. The crystalline core pulsed steadily, indicating full functionality. Myra's gaze didn't waver as she addressed the AI. "What exactly happens when the weapon is deployed?" The AI responded, its tone clinical and unflinching. "The weapon generates a high-frequency pulse, targeting the enemy's biomechanical structures at a molecular level. It is designed to neutralize all instances of the enemy species within a defined radius. Collateral damage to organic life forms is minimal but not impossible." Elena frowned, stepping closer to the hologram. "Define minimal?" The AI's tone remained steady. "Less than 5% probability of adverse effects on allied organic entities. However, precision cannot be guaranteed due to the adaptive nature of the enemy." Jax's voice was tight with unease. "So, it's a gamble. We could wipe out the enemy, or ourselves." Myra's expression hardened. "We don't have a choice. If we don't act, the enemy will continue to spread, and humanity won't survive another encounter like this. We need to activate the weapon." The AI began displaying a countdown interface, accompanied by a list of required steps to initiate the weapon. Final activation requires a manual override from the bridge. The systems are operational, but the sabotage inflicted damage to the primary command links. Physical intervention is necessary. Mira turned to her team, her voice resolute. "We finish this, no matter what." The path to the bridge was treacherous. The ship's defenses, now partially restored, had begun targeting the enemy hybrids, but the creatures were relentless. They attacked in waves, their screeches echoing through the corridors as they fought to stop the team. Elena used her portable scanner to identify weak points in the enemy's formations, coordinating their movements with precision. "Two ahead, one above. Watch your six." Mira and Jax worked in tandem, their weapons cutting through the advancing creatures. Each step toward the bridge felt like a lifetime, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on their shoulders. When they reached the bridge, they found it in shambles. The large viewport was cracked but intact, offering a haunting view of the storm outside. The console in the center of the room flickered with faint light, its system struggling to function after centuries of neglect. Jax moved to the console, his hands flying over the controls. This is it. I can override the final locks from here. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber. Warning. Enemy activity detected near the bridge. Their remaining forces are converging on your location. Time is critical. Elena stood by the entrance, her weapon raised as the first wave of creatures appeared. We've got company. Hold them off while Jax works. Mira and Elena formed a defensive line, their weapons lighting up the dark corridor. The creatures were faster and more desperate, their movements erratic as they threw themselves at the team. Myra's shots were precise, each one taking down an enemy before it could close the distance. Jax's voice cut through the chaos. Almost there. Just need a few more seconds. Elena's ammunition began to run low. She switched to her sidearm, her shot still accurate but slower. We're running out of time. The creatures breached the threshold, their jagged limbs scraping against the floor as they lunged forward. Mira tossed a plasma charge, the explosion buying them a brief moment of reprieve. Jax now, she shouted. With a final keystroke, Jax completed the override. The console lit up, and the AI's voice filled the room. Weapon activation confirmed. Final countdown initiated. 10 seconds to detonation. The team fell back to the center of the room, forming a tight circle as the remaining creatures surged toward them. The weapon systems began to hum, the sound growing louder with each passing second. The AI's countdown reached its climax. 3, 2, 1. Detonation. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the ship, spreading outward in all directions. The creatures let out a final, deafening screech before collapsing, their forms disintegrating into ash. The pulse continued to expand, engulfing the planet's surface and reaching far into the atmosphere. When the light finally faded, the silence was deafening. The team stood in the aftermath, their weapons lowered as they surveyed the devastation. The enemy was gone, completely eradicated. The AI's voice broke the silence. The enemy presence has been neutralized. Primary mission objective achieved. Mira lowered her weapon, her expression unreadable. And humanity's survival now depends on your actions. This ship contains knowledge and technology capable of advancing your civilization. Use it wisely. Jax let out a shaky breath, his voice tinged with disbelief. We did it. It's over. Elena nodded, her expression somber. For now. But the AI's right. We've got a responsibility now. This isn't just about us anymore. Mira stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the AI's crystalline core. Then we make sure it counts. Humanity's not just going to survive. We're going to thrive. The team stood together on the bridge of the Aegis Eternal, the weight of their victory and their future settling over them. The storm outside began to dissipate, revealing a sky filled with stars. For the first time in centuries, there was hope.